you very much for attending, and I promise you I will not be taking too much of your time because most of you are aware of what critical thinking is, and we spend our entire academic year trying to instill critical thinking amongst our students. So this is just mostly a refresher course for most of you, or um, just a discussion point for all of us EMTs on how we can establish that within our teaching lives. So first of all, what is critical thinking? So we as educators have understood that it is used to describe forms of thought, learning, and analysis. So for example, if we're given a problem, we are trying to instill in our students to first of all come up with a methodology and how we can apply different concepts to that problem, and then evaluate that problem and perform a deep analysis. And it is a process that goes beyond memorization and recollection of facts and information. We don't want our students just to memorize formulas, but to understand how this formula can be used in real life applications or real world problems. We want them to be able to justify their findings with meaningful arguments and creative thinking. I think that is one of the most important concepts of critical thinking, is whether the student is able to justify why their answer is correct using logical arguments and proofs, especially in my subject for mathematics. Secondly, what I thought we should consider is why it is important to promote critical thinking in our classrooms. Well, first of all, it's essential for them to develop a variety of intellectual skills. All right, so critical analysis, creative thinking, um, and being able to problem solving skills, etc. These are skills that are transferable to a variety of subjects such as English, science, mathematics, for higher education, as well as in their personal lives. If they were to apply for a loan or anything, they need to be able to analyze what they're being offered and actually think critically on whether it is suitable for them. It is also important for them to understand critical thinking to promote independence in students and have self-confidence and boost their self-esteem. When you give a student a problem, the student must have the confidence to be okay with making mistakes and to attempt problems using the knowledge they've already gained in their class and apply it in a creative manner. It allows them to develop well-reasoned and persuasive arguments and evaluate to meaningful conclusions. They're also able to examine novel concepts from a variety of different perspectives. So normally you see in group work, when we give our students projects to work in groups, each student will have a different perspective of how best to approach the problem and how best to solve it. Now I can have a different perspective from either of you, and we can discuss which is the best approach forward. That is a key component of critical thinking. It is also useful to devise imaginative ways to solve problems, especially with unfamiliar concepts or complex problems. So I'm sure all of you, when we give starter activities to our students for a new topic, and they are able to use previous knowledge and make that link of how they can use the previous knowledge to approach the new concept or the new lesson. It also helps them to identify themes and patterns and make abstract connections across subjects. So recently, I personally did an integrated lesson with Mr. Fayez for science, and I wanted them to relate what we were doing was data distributions and finding the mean of data, averages of data. And I wanted them to understand that this concept can be used for science as well when they're doing experiments and repeatability of experiments and finding the average value, and how it is important to understand the core concept and how it can be applied to a variety of subjects and what themes and patterns they can use in a variety of subjects. So how can we promote critical thinking? I realized there are 4 core concepts that we have to understand and apply that can help promote critical thinking amongst our students. First thing is to ask them. Ask them open-ended questions. It gives them a chance to apply what they have learned and build on prior knowledge. It also allows them to problem solve and think on their feet and increase self-confidence. So when you ask the simple question, why do you think, for example, if I gave a multiplication question and I asked them what is the value for x, I ask them why. Why is your answer so and so? And then if they're able to justify it, you can see that they are critically analyzing their own process and their own answer. That is a very key component. Encourage them. Encourage them to have decision-making skills. Give them a problem and allow them to have the safe space to make key decisions of what concepts they should be using and why they should be using these concepts. And then for them to present their findings and evaluate suitable solutions. Allow them to collaborate. Now, as we discussed earlier, we have group projects and group work in all of our subjects. It allows them to gain different perspectives from their peers and critically analyze each other's approach. So if I say, for example, if we're doing an art project, I say, let's make a poster. Someone else might say, let's do a PowerPoint presentation. And then they weigh the pros and cons of what is the best way forward. That is another section of critical thinking. And finally, to inspire them to be creative and promote imagination. Let's not limit our students to certain methodologies that they must use always to finish their work in our subjects. Allow them to be imaginative. Give them the freedom of choice to pursue whatever routes they want to take for a particular problem. Now I would like to play a quick video regarding different techniques we can use to enhance critical thinking.
Learning to think critically may be one of the most important skills that today's children will need for the future. In today's global and rapidly changing world, children need to be able to do much more than repeat a list of facts. They need to be critical thinkers who can make sense of information, analyze, compare, contrast, make inferences, and generate higher order thinking skills. There is no one strategy to support and teach your child how to think critically. As a parent, your role may sometimes be to ask open-ended questions to guide the thinking process. In other cases, it may be more appropriate to allow your child to experiment and refine her theories on what causes things to happen. Here are some tips and ideas to help children build a foundation for critical thinking. Testing how things work informally is crucial to developing critical thinking. It is during play that children explore cause and effect. By providing indoor and outdoor space for playing, along with time for pretend play, you provide open-ended opportunities for your child to try something and see the reaction, and then to try something else and see if he can create a different reaction. These hands-on experiences provide an integral foundation for later abstract critical thinking. Helping our children develop their reading comprehension skills is a critical first step to develop skills needed to become capable and enthusiastic readers. Kids need to develop and improve their ability to distinguish between what they understand and what they do not about a statement, paragraph, or a book. This skill is imperative so that you can help them practice and figure out ways that can help them improve this critical foundational skill. Allowing your child to ask and answer questions about what they have read is a great way to prepare them to think actively as they read. By answering questions, children can show they have mastered the ability to understand what they have read and interpret it. In addition, it gives them the ability to demonstrate their critical thinking skills. Your child needs to have the ability to make connections when reading or maybe playing a game. By working with them, asking questions allows them to practice their critical thinking skills. It also lets them figure out how one paragraph in a book can relate to another. The practice of these skills can help them predict how a story might end. This instills the ability to size up a situation and make a critical analysis of potential outcomes. Pick out a few articles in the local newspaper and read them together. Have your child look for hints or clues to see if the article is trying to sell them something. Double-check facts together to show them how to use analysis and critical thinking skills. Read some riddles to your kids and practice solving them together. This teaches your children to analyze information. Offering your child ample time to think, attempt a task, or generate a response is critical, but not necessarily easy to do. Try silently counting to 60 while your child is thinking before intervening or speaking. This gives your child a chance to reflect on her response and perhaps refine, rather than responding with a first gut reaction. Taking a moment to form hypotheses during play is a critical thinking exercise. Try asking your child, if we do this, what do you think will happen? Or, let's predict what we think will happen next. Developing a critical mindset is becoming one of the most essential skills for success in our technology and information overloaded world. By instilling critical thinking skills early in life, you're teaching your kids how to analyze the world around them. Hope you found this video useful. Please leave a comment if you like this video.
Okay, so as you could see from the video, that how important critical thinking skills are not just for their school lives, but to become well-rounded people in the real world, and how they must be able to interpret the information that they're being, especially in the current digital age where information is endless around them, how to filter information and to make meaningful decisions based on that information. So that's why that's why our roles as teachers is very important in able to help them develop the critical thinking skills. Let's go to the next slide. So these are some of the key critical thinking skills that I personally tend to focus on in my lessons that I want the students to develop as they are in my class over the year. Analysis. I want them to be able to analyze a problem and convey to me what possible steps they can take to solve that problem. I also focus on giving them worded problems. I'll give them a long worded question and I'll tell them, interpret that problem and tell me what is it trying to ask us. We practice highlighting keywords within the problem, and I'm sure we do this across subjects in English especially and in science, where we highlight the keywords that we are presented in a problem, and I tell them to interpret what does it mean by that. And another section that they have to improve on, at least in my lessons, is their reading comprehension skills, because some of the wording, for example, there are several synonyms for multiplying or for addition. You can say sum, add, etc. So they need to be able to understand these different words and realize what is the meaning behind them, what is the mathematical relation. So that is what I try to focus on. Inference and explanation. So for them to be able to justify and explain to me why they have chosen the particular methodology or procedure and how they're able to justify it is a very important skill as well. Self-regulation. Give them the time to solve it all on their own without interfering. If they make mistakes, give them the confidence and the ability to be okay with making mistakes. I try to tell my students it's all right to make mistakes because that's how you will learn. When you make a mistake, you remember, right, this is where I went wrong and this is how I corrected it. So self-regulation is a very, very important skill. Open-mindedness, let them be creative. There is no one. In mathematics, sometimes there's not one right method to solve a particular problem. You can approach with a variety of methods. So I always try to tell them to be resourceful. There's no one correct way to solve a problem. Benefits of critical thinking. I think that video was very explanatory on what are the key benefits of critical thinking. Some of them in a summary are like, it is a universal concept that is applicable to subjects, a variety of subjects and real life problems. It promotes innovation and creativity, especially when we assign them projects. It promotes to them to be creative and innovative and thinking outside the box per se, rather than sticking to a curriculum. It plays a great role in improving a student's language and presentation skills. And finally, it is a great source of self-reflection and justification of their decisions. When they're able to justify their findings, that's when you can see that they understand the concept truly. When they're able to teach their peers and justify their thinking behind it, that's when you know that the student is actually developing their critical thinking skills. Oops, that is a wrong slide. So in summary, critical thinking is a great concept to promote a student's confidence and creativity. It provides ample opportunities for development of key lifelong transferable skills. It allows students to become more comfortable and confident in approaching brand new complex problems. It promotes self-learning within students as they must take ownership of their work. And finally, and the most important point I'd like to make, there's no one correct method of implementing critical thinking. We are trying to get our students to be creative and imaginative. That particular role also falls on us, that we have to be imaginative, creative in the methods we use or the tasks we use to develop our students' critical thinking skills. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I did not take too much of your time.